Hi, Taurus. I hope this new year finds you well and in good spirits and good health. And so I wanted to say before I actually jump in to this, as I'll pull up the screen, that while I was recording this, this is attempt number 2 to record it, as I was talking about Uranus and the eclipses, my power went out and I lost the entire video. The irony of that is not lost on me. So this is going to be for you, Taurus, your sun, your moon, or your ascendant for 2022. And we'll dive right in. So right out of the gate for you, Taurus, we had that partial lunar eclipse to kind of herald the new fated karmic destined things that are happening for you specifically. And so this was in your sign. So this was a finalization, a completion, and a reevaluation for you to kind of usher us through the rest of the year and kind of put the seeds of change in you, in your mind, in yourself, in your body, of what's going to be coming over these next several months, couple of years, with these new eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio. But before we dive into that, I did want to mention, because to me this is pretty profound, when I was looking at specifically the January astrology, and we'll get more into that in December when I post the January forecast for Taurus and for all the other signs, is this new moon in Capricorn at 12 degrees sees Venus specifically at retrograde at 22 degrees. And if we can think back, pre-COVID, what have you, all of this kind of craziness that's happened over this last couple of years, Venus is activating via transit this kind of singularity point where we had Pluto, the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury all in conjunction at 22 degrees in January of 2020. January 12th is the date that I had looked at. And to me, this is pretty profound. So there could be a reactivation or a finalization and a letting go of something from, that time frame in January of 2020, or a resolution of sorts with, Venus retrograding here over this point at the new moon, because new moons are truly where we release and where we seed new intent. So there's definitely something going on there for you. And this is in your, your ninth house, Taurus. So this is really interesting. So maybe some travel, some movement, moving, education, foreigners, foreign people, foreign places, things like that. So definitely something to keep our eye on. And we'll talk about that in December when I record the January video. On January 19th, the nodes do enter Scorpio and Taurus, and they will remain there for the next 18 months ish. And so what this means is that there's kind of this fated karmic kind of feeling that can happen around this time, and especially between the dates of February 6th through the 16th. That's when the north node specifically, is going to be at 27 degrees of Taurus. And so there's definitely an activation of that full moon partial eclipse that happened in November of 2020. And there is a manifestation point happening. So whatever that full moon eclipse happened, this is a manifestation point of that eclipse and possibly a fulfillment of that eclipse promise. Now, on February 16th specifically, we have a full moon in Leo squaring the exact point, squaring the nodes exactly, squaring that eclipse point. So the sun and the moon, not only are they square the nodes, they're squaring that full moon eclipse exactly. So this is a very fated, very karmic transition for you, Taurus, specifically, where you have completed something, where you have finalized something. So just so you're aware, and I want to make, not make it known, but like let you know that there is definitely some manifesting going on with whatever that eclipse, some finalization, completion, reevaluation even of what was going on for you around that eclipse time in November of 2020. Now, on April 30th, we do have another solar eclipse happening at 10 degrees of Taurus. This is a partial solar eclipse, and it is with Uranus, and Uranus is at 14 degrees. It's 4 degrees away. It's highly active in this specific eclipse. So I do want to put that out there that I will definitely be covering this chart in depth when we get to April, because this chart to me is very auspicious, and it's there's trines and sextiles. The only hard aspects are conjunctions, and so there's a blending of energies, whereas there's no squares, there's no oppositions. This is all trines and sextiles. The caveat is Pluto is stationing to go retrograde at this point. So it is stationing, just so you're aware. So things can feel very intense, but I mean, could be in a really good way. May 16th, we do have that total lunar eclipse. Again, happening at 25 degrees of Scorpio, squaring Saturn. So with this, this is a blood moon eclipse. This is a very powerful eclipse at 25 degrees of Scorpio. If you have any planets or points, at this point of, between, I'd even say, 15, but we'll say 20 to 30 degrees of Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, or Aquarius. The fact that it's squaring Saturn means that it will be forming a grand fixed cross in your chart. And so this can be a really big culmination, a really big completion and finalization and reevaluation going forward of what stays, what goes, what you want to carry with you, and what you want to release back to the ethers. The thing is that with this full moon eclipse, Mercury is in Gemini retrograde, Venus is in Aries with Chiron, and Mars is with Neptune in Pisces. So there's some really interesting energy going on, and it's not necessarily the greatest energy. Whatever's going on around this eclipse, there's definitely going to be some type of reevaluation in terms of your you yourself, your relationships, your one-to-ones, right? Whereas with that partial solar eclipse that's happening on April 30th, I mean, this is really auspicious for you specifically, because this is a North Node solar eclipse. This is something new, brand new, a brand new you, a brand new way of being in the world, a brand new way of doing things. So there's definitely some really nice things happening. Now, this total lunar eclipse that's happening, this has to do with your relationships in terms of how you relate to people in positions of power and authority, or to authority in general, as well as your own career. Because I'm sure, with that Saturn Uranus square that happened in 2020, you were working on your career and what it is that you wanted to do long term in your career. And so there's definitely some kind of iffy energy going on. The way it hits your chart though, I mean, with Mars in Pisces, this is, this isn't the worst energy, because this is sextile and trine your ascendant and descendant. But Venus is in Aries, and so this is your 12th house, and it is with Chiron. So there could definitely be some, some behind the scenes things, maybe some deep, very profound healing that's going on for you at this time or around this solar or lunar eclipse, I'm sorry. And then with Mercury being retrograde in Gemini, there's a reevaluation that's happening with your finances at this time as well. So this eclipse, I'll cover it more in depth when we get there in May. But I just want you to be aware of the themes that are coming up for you as well. On October 25th, we do have, the last solar eclipse of the year, and this is a partial solar eclipse at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So this is happening in your relationship sector. So this is with the South Node. you know, even though they are kind of at opposite ends of the sign here, this is still very much, you know, maybe past relationships coming back around in a different way, or seeing you actually release a relationship that is no longer serving you. Like solar eclipses, solar eclipses are a little bit of a different beast. You know, it is the release of an old cycle, an old pattern, an old behavior. And for you, this could be the release of an old relationship for something that is new, that is very deeply connected to who you are coming in going forward as well. On November 8th, we do have that total lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Taurus, and it is with Uranus, pretty exact, and squaring Saturn. Mars is also retrograde in Gemini at this time. So there's some really intense energy going on. You know, this is you finalizing, completing something. This is a fruition of some type of relationship for you, and a completion of that energy, right? Because it's a full moon eclipse. It's also a very intense, you may be feeling heightened emotions at this time, just because, you know, it is a total lunar eclipse. And so this lunar eclipse, though, in Taurus could take a very long time to, if it's, you know, if it's negative, it could take a long time to overcome. If it's positive, it could take a long time to come to fruition, right? Because the moon is at apogee in Taurus. It is at, you know, towards the farthest point away from the earth itself. And so there's this unfolding over time of this energy. Now with the moon with Uranus, this is highly disruptive emotions, you know, and so your speech could be very disrupted. This could be, you know, squaring Saturn in your 10th house. This is definitely, you know, really intense, maybe volatile and emotional things going on in your career sector with someone in a position of power and authority over you. And Mars is retrograde in, you know, in your second house of your money, your materials, and your possessions. So there's definitely, you know, some reevaluations going on with how you're making your money and your relationships in general through these eclipses. Now, for Mercury this year, Mercury will be starting its retrograde cycles for the most part, except for that last one, in the air signs, and continuing that unfoldment of the story of Mercury communicating, especially in the air signs, and, you know, making changes making changes in your second, your sixth, and your 10th houses in general, but then it will dip back into your ninth, your sixth, and your sign, or your ninth, your ninth, your fifth, and your sign, right? So to start off with, in January, Mercury will be going retrograde at 10 degrees of Aquarius, kind of a reiteration of what was going on, you know, the previous year when it went retrograde in Aquarius. And so there's a reevaluation that needs to happen in terms of your career and what you're doing out in the world, your material, like your material, how it is that you're known, what it is that you're known for, and the legacy that you want to leave behind after you're gone. So there's definitely a real evaluation going on in January with this energy, and understanding that, you know, things are bound to change, right? It is an air sign. So there could be conversations about changing what it is that you're doing out in the world, or how you're doing something out in the world, or even with a boss in a position of power and authority. It will retrograde back into Capricorn, which is your ninth house. So maybe there's something through this Mercury retrograde that is kind of revealed that maybe you need to go back to school, or you need some more education, or some other type of education when it comes to what it is that you're doing in your career, right? Because it's kind of spanning both signs. So this is a thing here too. And so it will turn direct at 24 degrees of Capricorn. We have to remember Venus went retrograde over this spot. And also in 2021, this is where Capricorn, it is Capricorn. This is where Pluto stationed to go direct. So there's definitely a reactivation of that Pluto stationing energy and what came up for you around that time as well. And then in May, Mercury does go retrograde again. This time it will be in your second house of your money, your materials, your possessions, your finances, and your value systems, right? What it is that you truly value in this world. And it will start its retrograde there. It will dip back into your sign. It will dip back into your ascendant. So maybe what this is doing is this is getting you to reevaluate how it is that you spend your money or what it is that you truly value. And maybe even at a core level, this could be a reevaluation of self, right? So there could definitely be checks and balances going on for you there, Taurus. Then in September, Mercury will be going retrograde in Libra. It will start its retrograde in Libra and it will go all the way back to 24 degrees of Virgo. So what this is doing is this is starting to go retrograde in your sixth house of what it is that you're doing every single day, who you're interacting with at work, how you're interacting at work is up for reevaluation. Even maybe what you're doing for work is up for reevaluation, as well as your health, your wellness, your daily routines, the things that you need every single day, your mental health as well, if I didn't say that. And then it's going to dip back into Virgo. And this is a reevaluation. Maybe during this, kind of span of both signs, there's a reevaluation that's going on that maybe there's a hobby. There's something that you love to do just because you love to do it, that you want to make part of your everyday routine. Maybe, there's some type of health regimen that you get fired up, well, not necessarily fired up because you're Taurus, but that you get really excited about, right? And so this, this can definitely see you taking something that is like a passion project or a hobby or something that you love to do and bringing it into your everyday experience. So that is what that Mercury retrograde can do for you. And then on December 29th, literally the very end of the year, Mercury will station to go retrograde in Capricorn at 24 degrees, where it's stationed to go direct on January 14th of 2022, which means there's a revisit that's happening, in terms of the education and or travel or foreigners or foreign people, or, how it is that you frame the reality around you. There's definitely something here that's going on to, get you to reevaluate some things here in this ninth house. So that is Mercury. And then we have Venus and Mars. So this 2022 is going to be pretty significant in terms of our monies, materials, relationships, in terms of our passions, in terms of, the actions that we're taking and things like that. Both of these are up for reevaluation. Everything that Venus and everything that Mars rules in your charts, which Venus is a chart ruler for you. So there's definitely a reevaluation going on here. Or sun, the dispositor of your sun, or, the dispositor of your moon. One of those two if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising. Venus will go retrograde in 2021. And it will retrograde back to 11 degrees of Capricorn, where it will station direct on the 29th of January. So there is a reevaluation here for you specifically in terms of what it is that, how you specifically frame reality and how you see reality, educational pursuits, travel, moving, right? There's definitely something there, especially with, Mercury going retrograde twice in Capricorn for you as well. And then Venus also beginning the year, kicking off the year, it's your chart ruler. There's a reevaluation happening for you in this very structured Capricornian area of your life. Maybe there's something that you're teaching. Maybe you decide that maybe that's not necessarily what you want to do. Maybe you decide that, that is what you want to do. And so there's a reevaluation and your own education that you need to get that will help you with this. This is also your 6th house ruler, Venus. So there will definitely be some reevaluations on what it is that you're doing every single day for your growth and your development in terms of those 9th house things. Mars will be going retrograde in October 30th at 25 degrees of Gemini, going all the way back to 8 degrees of Gemini and stationing in January of 2023. Now, what I do want to say about this Mars retrograde is that if we look at past retrograde cycles here in Gemini, we have 3 hits, 3 years in a row. So in 2020, we had Venus going retrograde here. In 2021, we had Gemini, or we had Mercury, sorry, we had Mercury going retrograde here. And now in 2022, we have Mars going retrograde here. So whatever relationships were formed, you know, for you with Venus, your chart ruler, or whatever was set in motion, how you make your money, how you earn your money yourself through your own, you know, your own body, how you move through the world, your own value systems, was up for reevaluation back in 2020. In 2021, when Mercury went retrograde here, there was again a much more powerful reevaluation going on because Mercury rules Gemini. So there's definitely this theme of reevaluating, truly reevaluating what it is that you value and how it is that you're making your money and your possessions as well, what you choose to spend your money on. With Mars here, this could be, you know, this is your 7th house ruler. And so if you're a Taurus rising, so that's Scorpio. And then Aries for you is also your 12th house ruler. So there could definitely be some type of resource that is maybe cut away or money that needs to be spent. There could be how do I want to put this? There could be a partnership that is coming to an end with this Mars retrograde, right? And it's a way, it's money that you make through partnership with other people, or money, it's money that you make, but it could be maybe the end of a contract that's coming up, on the end of, yeah, how do I want to say this? Yeah, the end of a contract coming up, or the reevaluation of a contract, or the reevaluation of the money that you are making through a contract. It could be something like that. There's also, you know, it's the 12th house ruler. So this could also be a reevaluation of money spent on, you know, either self-sabotaging behaviors and addictions, or money spent on vacations even, or money that you need to spend because of some type of, you know, hospital, you know, retreat center, something like that, that's going on here for you, depending on, you know, how the rest of your chart is set up. But these two going retrograde in the same year, they're not quite, well, actually, no, they are. They're bookending the year. So there's definitely some reevaluations going on in terms of our relations, our monies. You yourself are reevaluating, you know, your worldview, education, educational pursuits, teaching pursuits, writing, publishing, things like that. And how, you know, how it is that you're making your money. Now, in February, specifically on February 14th, both Venus and Mars come conjunct exact at 14 degrees of Capricorn, and they run together and enter Aquarius together on March 7th. And they're together as in the same degree every single day until March 10th. Now, that's when Venus pulls away by a degree, by a whole degree. So they're still together, but they're not exact at degrees anymore. So that's a long run for them. When they enter Aquarius, this is activating your 10th house. This is activating what came up for you December of 2020 in terms of your career with that Saturn and Jupiter conjunction that happened. So when they enter, this is not just, you know, not just Saturn and Jupiter kind of tempered growth, right? This is your chart ruler and this is your relationship ruler. So there could definitely be some type of contract agreement or negotiation in terms of what it is that you're doing out in the world and how it is that you go about making your money, or your daily job even, because, you know, Venus does rule Libra. Libra is your 6th house. So there's definitely some really interesting things going on here for you in terms of your career, your public reputation, your standing in like the larger, you know, world as a public figure. So there's definitely some stuff going on here and a reactivation of what was going on for you in December of 2020, but in a different way. That is for that. And then Taurus, for Jupiter, we have Jupiter entering Pisces, you know, for most of the year. And so for you, this is your 11th house. This is where, you know, friends and social networks and people that you choose to surround yourself with, groups and organizations that you choose to be a part of for that humanitarian pursuit. And this is really beautiful. So whatever happened in, you know, 2021, when Jupiter dipped into Pisces for those few months and then retrograded back out into Aquarius, whatever themes were happening for you at that time will come back around again. And so now we're really going to be in it. So this humanitarian, you know, compassionate, you know, being compassionate towards your fellow humans, the future plans, goals, and orientations that you want to get to is on your mind as well. You know, next right steps kind of thing, mapping out the future and how you want to get there. You know, groups and organizations, especially that have to do with helping to maybe take care of the downtrodden or taking care of, you know, people that are kind of on the fringes of society for whatever reason. Maybe it could be addicts. It could be people that, you know, are kind of kept away from the world and institutions and things like that. So there's definitely something here, especially around April 12th, when we have the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune at 23 degrees of Pisces. So, you know, there's definitely this really huge, heartfelt, compassionate, you know, thing going on here. And maybe even because Jupiter does rule your 8th house of joint finances, this could also be maybe you being a part of, like a what do they call it? Like a charity of some kind, and using, you know, using money that are coming in through joint resources to fund a charity or create a charity of some kind. That's something there too. On May 11th, Jupiter does enter Aries. So it does enter, you know, your 12th house. And so there could be a need, a want, and a desire to kind of pull away from the world, or maybe even take a vacation. Maybe there is, you know, there's something that comes up where you can retreat away from the world in a really big, exciting way for you, right? Because it is Aries. You know, there's definitely some themes here of pulling away from the world, being away from the world, being in solitude, being in seclusion, but not, it's Jupiter. It's not like in a bad way. It's in a very, you know, exciting, jovial, you know, be careful of the overindulgence too, though. There's definitely that. It will station to go retrograde at 8 degrees of Aries in July, and it will retrograde all the way back into at 28 degrees of Pisces to go direct. But on October 29th is when it will re-enter your 11th house from your 12th. And so there's definitely some reevaluations that are going on with how far you've gone with maybe the groups and the networks and the organizations and the retreating from the world, or maybe even funding a retreat center that needs to be reevaluated. That could definitely be something there too. So, you know, there's some things here. And then on November 23rd, it does station to go direct. And so it will finish out its transit, you know, by the end of December, in middle end of December in Pisces, and move fully into that Aries energy. So that's really exciting for you, Taurus. I'm excited for you for that. And then we have Saturn. So Saturn is, at the start of the year, it's at 11 degrees. It's just coming off. It's literally 1 degree away from Uranus. So it's just coming off. It's that final square is still really potent, still really powerful, but Saturn is moving direct and it's moving on. So it's like the finalization has happened. Now we start to deal with the fallout of what that represented and what's going on there. On June 4th, Saturn will station to go retrograde at 25 degrees of Aquarius, depending on where your sun, your moon, your ascendant, or your ascendant, descendant, and IC is. Could see this affecting your career, especially, or yourself and your relationships. There could be frustrations, limitations, or delays with what it is that you're trying to do out in the world. Or this could see you nose to the grindstone, really just pushing forward with what it is that you want to be known for. Maybe you want to be known for teaching, because Saturn does rule your 9th house, Taurus. Or maybe, this is you bossing up and owning your own business. This could be something like that. It does station to go retrograde at 25 degrees of Aquarius, like I said, and go all the way back to 18 degrees of Aquarius. So in between 11 and 25 degrees, right? That's the total ground it's going to cover, but especially between 25 and 18 degrees of Aquarius, if you have your ascendant or descendant in Taurus or Scorpio at those degrees, if this is your midhaven point between those degrees, you're going to be really feeling this Saturn. You're going to feel really frustrated, or right on the reverse of that, you're going to be really nose to the grindstone, getting down to the nitty gritty, pulling up your sleeves and doing the actual work that you need to do to make it to that higher echelon in terms of your career and your public reputation and public standing and what it is that you're known for. So Saturn does kind of squeeze the excess out. There could not be a lot of fun going on, but it's a lot of hard work that needs to be done. And then Uranus, and so I did all of these at 3 o'clock in the morning, from the general that I put on YouTube to all the way from Aries through to Pisces. And I did not catch that I put Aquarius here. So I do apologize for that. It is Taurus. It is not Aquarius. So we start the year, Uranus is retrograde. It's stationing to go direct at the beginning of this coming year, of 2022, and it is stationing to go direct in Taurus. And so it's stationing to go direct in your sign. If you are anywhere from 10 to 18 degrees of Taurus for your ascendant, your sun, or your moon, this is really going to be shaking you up. This is really going to be affecting you specifically, and really kind of shaking things up for you and shaking you up kind of. So just be aware of that. And, you could maybe act erratically, especially with Uranus, or, being shaken out of a way of being stuck or stagnant in your life. So I just want to let you all know that. And as we get to these outer planets, it's not a lot of ground to cover. It's just if you have planets or points within these degrees, you want to pay more attention to where they are and what they're doing, because they will have a bigger effect if they're touching personal planets or personal points for you. So Neptune, we start January 1st at 20 degrees of Pisces. She will be getting all the way to 25 degrees and then retrograding back to 22 degrees of Pisces. So anywhere from 20 to 25 degrees, if you have, your sun or your moon planets or points, or even, if you're listening to your sun or your moon here, your ascendant is anywhere from, 20 to 25 degrees, but especially that 22 to 25 degrees of Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius. This is going to see some really interesting energy, and it could be maybe some illusion or disillusionment that's going on, that's happening for you. But when Neptune stations to go retrograde or stations to go direct, usually a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after the actual station, there can be this kind of free floating anxiety that's happening, or this like uptick in psychic abilities in terms of impressions and dreams and things like that, because Neptune does rule over our dream state, altered consciousness as well. So just be aware of that for the year. And then finally, we have Pluto. So for you, Pluto is going to be in your ninth house still. It's been in your ninth house for a while. So it's definitely, you know, doing its due diligence to get you to focus on what's going on with your worldview, and maybe, you know, destroying your old view and having a brand new one put in place for you. For you specifically, Pluto starts out at 25 degrees, gets all the way to 28, retrogrades back to 26, and goes direct. So around Pluto stations, we can have this really ominous, intense kind of paranoia that comes on, and we feel like, well, we feel paranoid, we feel extra paranoid, like there's something about to happen, like the other shoe's about to drop and it's going to be super bad, right? Like that I've noticed with Pluto specifically. But it can be really intense, dramatic transformation, especially in your relationships, because it does rule your relationships. So just so you're aware. But it is kind of going over, you know, 25 to 28 degrees, mainly the 26 to 28 degrees. There could definitely be, you know, if you have planets or points there in Capricorn or in Aries, Cancer, or Libra at those points, there's definitely some very intense things that are going on for you. The only advice that I can give you, and I really wish I would have said this for Aries, is that you have to work on Pluto before Pluto works on you. So dive into your shadow, dive in, you know, do that inner journey, what some people call the heroine's journey, but that inner work where we dive into our own shadows. And as a good teacher of mine says, our own shadow's shadow, right? So dive in, understand it. Don't judge it or anything like that, but understand where it comes from, why it's there, and then heal it. And that's really what Pluto is asking to do here. So that is what I have for you, Taurus. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. You know, I hope you'll stick around for my monthlies, because those are looking, next year is looking to be really interesting in terms of the astrology. Maybe some nicer energy coming in too, but definitely some interesting energy. So I would definitely say stick around, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.